Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Revitalise Meets. I am Lee Foster of Revitalise Connecting People, and welcome to the business-focused podcast that is Revitalise Meets. We get the opportunity to meet many business connections in our travels, and Revitalise Meets is designed to bring along and welcome guests locally and globally to really find out a bit more about their business journey, their top tips, their experiences, their challenges, their achievements, and much, much more. So we welcome everybody on our YouTube channel for Revitalise Network and also our LinkedIn live audience who are joining us this afternoon, who've just popped the kettle on and come along to join us. Now, as always, I like to bring along windswept and interesting characters who have had a wonderful business journey. And this week, I've got the great pleasure to be welcoming along a connection who's helping everybody by expanding their brand, about getting their brand out there even further, and for people to understand what branding is all about. Now, can you please put your hands together and welcome with me this week's guest is the one and only of FLUX, Mr. Mark Thouless. Mark, how are you?
I'm fine, Lee. Thanks, and thanks for that intro. It sounds like a great podcast. I think I'll go and pop the kettle on and listen to it myself.
That's the next one coming up. Pop the kettle on. That's the next podcast. Hang on, let me just make a note of that down. That's written down there for us.
It's a trademark, though. Invoices in the post. Don't give anything away for free.
Brilliant. Mark, can we start? Thank you so much for meeting me this afternoon and joining me as my guest on the channel.
You're welcome, Lee.
Where did it all begin for you? Where did FLUX start, and where are you right now?
Where did it start? Well, I guess we've got to go a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I mean, I couldn't get away
we're
without
going down that road already. Hang on.
Yes, couldn't get away without mentioning Star Wars. I guess it started, I mean, like the cliche, I was always creative when I was a kid. I always liked making things, and that kind of followed right the way through school. Although, funnily enough, when I left school, I actually had a bit of a crossroads. It was either going to be physics or art that I was going to be doing. So in some parallel universe somewhere, I'm probably a mad scientist, and I've probably destroyed the world several times over. But no, I decided to go art. Went to art college for 3 years, although probably 2.5 of those was spent in the union drinking. But yeah, left with a degree and did what every other student did, end up stacking shelves in Tesco for a year, the apples and tatties. So I could tell you lots about Cox's Pippins. Yeah, did that for about a year, and this was pre-internet. So this was, I know, I don't look old enough.
No.
But yeah, so this was before email and stuff like that. So basically, to find a job, you looked up the small ads in the paper, and you went round to their offices. You wrote letters, and you sent your CV in that way. So it was me, portfolio in hand, knocking on doors, basically saying, "Give a job." If there was no jobs going, asking if they could look at my portfolio, get some experience. All I wanted to do was get in somewhere, get into a studio. Then what happened was I was round at a friend's house, and the landline rang. Remember those landlines? So it was my mum phoning my friend's mum, saying that someone had kind of phoned up. I'd been in for an interview. I didn't get that, but they liked the look at portfolio. Did I want to come in for 4 weeks worth of work? So jumped at the chance. Went to Tesco, told them where they could stick their apples and tatties. And yeah, 4 weeks turned into 12 years. And I left there as senior designer. Moved there to become creative design manager at another place. And then 2015, Aberdeen, as you know, is an oil city, oil capital of Britain. And 2015, the oil slump hit. So I faced redundancy 2 weeks before Christmas, which was nice. Merry Christmas. So yeah, 2016, basically nothing going at all. So I decided just to set myself up freelance, have a laptop, will travel, and did that for about 2 years. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed being my own boss. Work started to pick up. Couldn't do it all on my own. Phoned a friend, and yeah, FLUX was born 2017, September of 2017. So yeah, that's how I got into running my own business.
Brilliant, superb, Mark. And apologies, we've got another thing on interference in your camera at the minute, so there's a little bit of playing about with that. I know you've had a couple of things going on with the camera, so apologies, everybody. But Mark is still there. If you can still see him, so please bear with us on that one.
You don't need to see me. God knows you don't need to.
As long as we can hear your dulcet tones. We've got a couple of people online with us as well. We've got Michelle D. Almeida, who's joined us, and we've got David Wright. So thanks for messaging on there on the chat as well. So good to see you, David and Michelle. And if you've got any questions in the meantime and you hear anything of interest that pops up, just pop it into the chat feed and we'll certainly respond to that as quick as we possibly can. That's quite an exciting journey, though, when you think about where you started from with an idea, followed through to it 12 years, and then working for yourself in that environment as such for that time as well. And, you know, it did start in a galaxy far, far away, etc. as well. So all good to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think all the way through my career, one thing that's kind of has been a constant is I always need to know why. So even when I was started out working, getting in the studio, I was just trying to learn as much as I could. And again, showing my age, back in those days, it was cut and paste was actually cutting and pasting. So
yeah, if anyone doesn't know, phones are something we used to pick up and talk into. Landlines they were called, and cutting and pasting was done with a little Pritt stick once as well, just actually cutting it out and sticking it onto paper.
The good old days.
Showing our age now on that one.
Oh, what?
Mark, what's been you've worked for yourself, but what's been the biggest challenge you've had in business, especially in the branding industry? What's been your biggest challenge that you've overcome?
The biggest challenge is technology. I mean, it's challenging today since my camera's not working. But yeah, that's been the biggest thing. Although we use technology quite heavily in our industry. I mean, yeah, as I said, we used to cut and paste, but now the advent of Apple Macs and things like that and Adobe software makes life a hell of a lot easier, but they're just tools. But the biggest change we had was business owners and people being able to do stuff for themselves, be able to create for themselves. So, you know, software like Canva, Wix, things like that. And now the advent of AI, which is the latest shiny new toy. Yeah, that was a real challenge for our industry because the value that we had, our skills that we had for creating these things quickly diminished. So we had to adapt quite quickly and see why anybody would need us, which was a scary time to be when up until that point we focused on doing the design side of things, and then all of a sudden everybody could do it themselves. You know, it was kind of like a milkman going around and going, do you want to buy some milk? No, we've got a cow in the back garden, we're fine. What do you do? So yeah, that was a massive challenge. But we pivoted, we see where the value was, and that was not necessarily in the creating, but where it came from, the why in the business, and bringing an outside perspective with a brand sort of goggles on for us to kind of pick out what would work from a kind of a brand perspective. So design only works when it's got meaning and purpose. So we kind of pivoted towards, well, what is the meaning and purpose? Helping business owners find that out. So
yeah. It's interesting you say about understanding the challenges and technology that we have now. I think in some ways it's a good challenge to have. It's also a hard challenge at times because we're trying to embrace, I think, different areas of technology that improves our business right now. But I think that's a good thing to have because we've talked about feeling uncomfortable, being comfortable with it all.
Yeah.
And I guess that's been some of the stages you've been through as well. And I guess through that.
Yeah, absolutely. When technology was an absolute, and it is it's an invaluable tool for our industry. But when that starts working against you and basically overtaking you, that's when it becomes worrying. You think, well, where actually do we go with the business? But yeah, like anything, and then obviously off the back of that the blip happened. If you like your Marvel, the pandemic, which threw us all for six. So, and yeah, it was adapt and survive, you know. So I think that all showed us we needed to, you know, rather than sitting there quite comfortable with things. I think sometimes you need that bit of a shake up. The universe kind of tells you now and again to when things need to happen. So yeah, a lot of adapting, and that's kind of carried on since then with FLUX. And it's always been a part of our ethos anyway. It's always to adapt, never sit in the laurels and never just, you know, Just assume things are going to stay the same. You've always kind of got to keep refining, keep it. Frustratingly, nothing's ever done. There's always tweaks and refinements to be made. But I guess we're facing that's the fun part. That's what we like doing. So
there's always something more we can learn. There's always something else that we can do. We can always stretch ourselves even further, especially in business or working in a role, etc. as well. And it's funny you mentioned there about adapting your business. I always ask my guests this quite regularly because we talk about the blip. You talk about those couple of years that we completely forgot about. But you've come from an industry and a segment and an era where it's very face-to-face, sitting down with a client, writing out what they're looking for, pulling together a plan, an action, a strategy that you want to achieve from it. Have you found, we talk about technology again, have you embraced a virtual world now? Does that play a sort of balanced part into your business?
Oh, massively. I mean, things like this when video calls work and I don't look like a bad special effect from Doctor Who. Yeah, absolutely. The flexibility it gives you and the efficiency it gives you. So that's one great thing that came out of it was where I'm now more comfortable with using things like Zoom and Teams and stuff like that. Yeah, as I say, when they work. But yeah, even AI, and I noticed somebody's kind of popped on the messaging. Yeah, about absolutely hit the creative industry hard, but seeing it as a tool, something like that, it can help the creative process. It'll never replace it, and that's a key thing. But certainly, I've kind of grudgingly kind of used AI. I kind of avoid technology because I get obsessed with it, and I know if I got into something like Mid-Journey or some image creation, I would end up playing far too long and lose absolute hours on it. Creating stuff in Lego and let's see if we can make a bunch of cats look like superheroes and stuff like that. I mean, when you're just given anything your imagination, and that's a scary thing. But certainly where I've been embracing it more is for calls, for meetings, for helping with active listening. Because you have AI note-taking now, which can do it for you, and it can kind of quantify things. So actually, that's a great advent of AI, that you can actively listen to someone while the AI is taking the notes for you. Whereas before, you always had to stop and write notes down and take notes. So yeah, stuff like that is invaluable. So it's still, everybody's like quick to get the burning torches for AI, but like anything, it's a tool. We just need to know how to use it properly. And there'll be another shiny thing comes along in a few years' time anyway. So yeah, but yeah, as you said, the heart of it's people. And I love working with people. I love meeting new people. I'm a nosy bugger. That's why I ask why a lot, like a 2-year-old child. And that's always been at the heart of it. I need to know why. And I'll keep asking until I get it. So yeah, that's a part of the business I love. And that's what I'm trying to kind of more focus on these days, is being nosy.
I think you had a good point on that, though. There's a place where AI is a place where technology can embrace and enhance your business, but you cannot lose the personal touch.
No.
And I suppose one of the good things with like the AI side of things, it can actually, collate the information when you're talking about it. It can give you the sort of response afterwards, like note taking, like I mentioned there before. I still feel you cannot lose the personal or person touch into anything that we're doing, especially when it comes to your industry as well.
Absolutely, because the heart of any brand is emotion, it's passion, and you need to be able to, that can't be replicated. You know what I mean? And you need an outside perspective to help you tap into that as a business owner. So those things that machines can't do and software can't do and AI will never do. So fortunately, I found a little niche in there where I am still valuable, which is good, because if not, I don't think Tesco would have my back. After I told them,
would you go back though?
Would I ever go back to the apples? And if I had to,
like apples and tatties. Did you say apples and tatties before there?
Apples and tatties, the apples and tatties. So I was on the produce. I was on the greengrocer section. So that was my area of expertise. I could tell you some stories of things we used to find in the bananas, which would put you off bananas for life.
You want to know?
So no, you don't want to know. But yeah, So, but yeah, if I had to, but yeah, it's always try to find enough. I think it's finding what your passion, what you love doing. You know what I mean? In doing that, and when you do that and go out there and are authentic and honest and open about you love doing it, you attract people. It's just naturally attract like-minded people to you. You know, that love the same thing or want that from you. So
I agree with that. Thank you for sharing that as well. It's nice to hear how you embraced it, adapted your business, because we met online in regards to likes of, the global calls. We introduced to each other via Isabel Lockhart, who's actually online with us today as well. She's just
yeah,
put
it's
on
all her fault.
strong with you, by the way. And it's about the people, it's people that we're meeting, etc. So one of the questions I like to ask all my guests who come along to this sort of podcast and this interview is top tips from your industry or sector. What would you share? I mean, let's look at branding, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about this before, but what would be your golden top tips from the smorgasbord of knowledge and information that you have? You love that word, fella. You love that word, right? The smorgasbord of knowledge that you've got in this brain of yours. What would be your top 3 golden nuggets of tips for people watching and listening to us today on YouTube and LinkedIn?
Just smorgasbord in a Geordie accent. You just can't get back. Smorgasbord. Golden top tips from branding. I guess not just for branding. I think what I do a lot these days as well is connect with my fellow business owners. From a business owner to a business owner, I hope I can help with that journey as well. So, top tips for branding is a piece of advice I got when I first started out in business, and it stuck with me, and I followed the letters. Trust your gut. Yeah, and I've got a decent gut to trust, but it'll never let you down. It'll absolutely never let you down. And we all don't. We all sometimes don't listen to our gut, especially in the early days. We think we know better, and it never goes well. So trust your gut and do things your way. That's the thing that if you're a business owner out there, there's no rules. There's no right or wrong, especially when it comes to building a brand. Is do it your way. Yeah, do it the way that feels right to you. Now, absolutely an advocate for coming out your comfort zone. And you've got to, because I'm a great believer, try something once. But if you find yourself moving towards the discomfort zone, move away from it. You know what I mean? Again, essentially when you're a business owner, you're trying to find other you. You're trying to track yourself. So look to that. If you're not comfortable being in a certain space or a certain channel or doing a certain thing, chances are the people you're trying to track aren't there anyway. So what's the point? And if you're too much discomfort will take you away from the thing that you love doing, the thing you should be focusing on. So that's the number one. Trust your gut. Number 2 is the old favorite. You may have heard me mention this once or twice in the RBC, is find your light. You may have heard that one, which is people don't buy light bulbs from the light bulb shop, they buy light. So find that thing that you do that sits above what you do. So that light. Now you might say, but Mark, I don't sell bloody light bulbs. No, but what you do has a light. And more importantly is look what your audience and your customers, why do they need the light? What's triggered them to find the light and how is that making them feel? Get that. But most importantly is what does life look like after they have the light in their life? You get those 3 things, nailed down. Yeah, you're absolutely on a winner. You'll attract people in no end to your brand. And I guess the last thing is get an outside perspective. You can't do everything yourself, and you shouldn't be doing everything yourself. There's a lot of a mindset with business owners is I need to do everything myself because of budget, maybe because of finances, whatever. But I'll ask you a question: what's more valuable, time or money? If you're doing everything yourself and it's taking away from the thing that actually earns you money, is that such a good thing? Probably not. So yeah. Engage with other people. Look for that outside perspective. It's one thing you can't do for yourself. You can't read a label when you're inside the jar, and that's not just for brand. That's for any aspect of business. Let's face it. If every business owner did everything themselves, nobody'd be in business. You wouldn't need anybody else. Kind of pointless. So.
Absolutely superb, and I think it's ready. What you've mentioned on there as well. I think they're really key, sort of actual, real understanding about what you're looking for, and I think it's important that we put on there. And I'm actually just going to If you're listening on YouTube, you'll see it on YouTube. Unfortunately, on LinkedIn, if you're watching on LinkedIn, I know we've got David, we've got Ambika, we've got Michelle, we've got Isabel on there as well, and a few others. If you are on, you've got any questions about what's just been shared there, I've just dropped it into the YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to it, subscribe to it now. Mark's top tips about branding. Number 1, trust your gut. I put on there, go with the flow. Number 2, find your light. Find the thing that you do. Very important. Thirdly, outside perspective. Always listen to the third eye. I call it the third eye, Mark. It's that third person perspective on what you do. Somebody looking over the fence and seeing what you're doing is different from when you've been involved in the business, which I think you're trying to get to there easily. Yeah. You always are easy to understand. Yeah. But if you want to know more, I've put in there Mark's website again at readytoflux.com. So connect with Mark, find out on his website and check it all out as well. I think they're so important. I think we forget about the gut focus. Sometimes listening to the secondary brain, as I call it, you go, yeah, I'm going to go for it. You'll only learn from it if you go for it. And you never make a failure. You might make something that's different and it might not be right the first time, but you'll learn from it. I think that's so important.
Yeah, it's one of the key things that I work with my clients. It's that benchmark that I set. It's that test. Is like, does it feel right to you? I ask them a lot. Does that feel right? Because if it doesn't, then we need to keep looking. If it does, then you'll be able to get behind it more. If you can get behind it and believe in it 100%, you'll go out there with confidence and passion, and people will sense that off you. Their gut will tell you this person's authentic. This person believes in what they're saying. If you don't, you're not going to be confident, and people will pick up on that as well. Yeah. So that's the number one thing. It's not about things being perfect. Is, do you believe in it? Does it feel right to you? And I think that's key as well. So an emphasis on what connects all those 3 tips. That'd be the main one. Is make sure it feels right to you, because that's the only thing you'll get behind.
Yeah.
So plus, I'm now thinking about your third eye, Lee. So I think it just winked at me. So.
Stop it, because we're like, we're starting going off different angles, Mark. You know what we're like, we'll be on for about 5 hours. God help everyone else who's listening to us as well. Stick
to the script.
Stick to the script, because the Geordie will be let loose. So thanks, Ambika, I put it on there. Great advice, and thank you for doing right, adding some comments on as well. So if you got any questions, please fire them into the WhatsApp into LinkedIn or into the YouTube channel there, please, if you do so. And if there's anything later on YouTube, I'll certainly take that question, fire it to Mark, and we can respond to it later on as well, really importantly. Mark, I always ask this, and thanks for sharing that advice, by the way. It's always important to share golden nuggets, smorgasbords of advice. See, I dropped that in there twice now. How do you take time out of the business? Do you have any personal development, any training things that you do separately?
I guess the thing with that creative mind, I don't know if it's the same in the industry, it never switches off. Not fully, anyway. And I think we had a business owner, you kind of never really fully switch off, but especially if it's something you're passionate about and you love doing, then there's no harm in that. There's the old work-life balance, whereas I've kind of come to figure out in the past few years, it's just life, but certainly you've got to take time to yourself. And one of the things, and a way to blow smoke up your third eye, is Revitalise. It has been a way that I kind of still be in business but still be out of business. Is that support network. Being a business owner can be a lonely place, if you let it be. So that human contact, meeting with like-minded people, and doing things like this is a way of reflecting, of reconnecting, of just taking that break but still being in the business. And outside the business, it's the old cliche, family and friends, spending time with them, that's important. Been doing a lot more walking recently, try to get some fitness in. That again, the old cliche, walk in nature is always good. Reading, I've always read, again, since I was as a child. I tend not to read business books or industry books. Again,
okay, that's interesting.
The creative mind is a bit like an overactive child. And if I give it too much stimulus, I find if I read these books, my brain then won't switch off. So I read to kind of switch off. And it's not, I still get inspired by stuff, and I still But the creative mind's got it's somebody else's imagination and creativity kind of taking the reins for a wee while. So I tend to read a lot of fiction, obviously a lot of science fiction, comic books. I think that's a given that I read that. And I tell you, if you want to learn how to tell a story or something simply, with few words and few pictures, comic books. I tell you, it's an art form. And that, but I won't go into that because we'll be here definitely all night if I get into comic books. So yeah, I guess non-fiction would be autobiographies. I read quite a lot of them. So if there was a book recommendation, which I think you're hinting at, it would be Jimmy Carr's Before and Laughter. My wife bought it to me for Christmas, I think it was, and she thought it was just a stand-up. You'll like this since you're now a stand-up comedian, Lee. And that's why I tend to read autobiographies. Ronnie Barker's, Peter Kay's. So Jimmy Carr, big fan. And she bought this book, I think it's a biography, but it's actually a self-help book as well.
Oh, okay.
Well worth a read. I would highly recommend it. You don't have to be a fan of Jimmy Carr, but it helps because it's definitely got his humour through it. But it's definitely about his journey, his struggles with imposter syndrome and things like that. Definitely delves into why. In your choice, do things your way. You choose to do things. So,
love that.
Yeah, if for a bit of humour in your self-help. Movies. Before and
I've lost you, Mark. Sorry, I've lost you.
Laughter.
Before.
Big press. Oh.
You're back. You're okay. You're fine. Yeah, all good. Thank you. Before and after. Lovely. So I'll just put in there Jimmy Carr book. That's fine. I've just put that into the sort of feed as well, possible. That's fantastic. Thank you. For personal development, what's next for you? Then what's next in the next 6 months for you, Mark?
Think we've had a meltdown.
A tech issue for us on that one, I think, there, Mark. So, Mark, if you want to jump back out and jump back in again, I know we're live, everybody, but Mark can just jump back out and jump back in if you can hear me. I'll give it a couple of seconds, everybody, but Mark may join us back again. Unfortunately, the world of technology that happens with us on the channel, but it does happen now and again. But remember the advice that we've got from Mark as well. Mark's book recommendations. I put on there comic books, creative thinking, which I think is extremely important. For comic books, it gives you a bit of a third perspective of what you're looking at and how you can be more creative with what you do and just relaxes the mind in what we're looking at as well. And then the Jimmy Carr books is looking at autobiographies, especially what people have been through and challenges they've been through as well. So thanks very much for Mark for sharing that, really importantly. And when you think about the top tips that Mark gave out before as well, and if you're still with us, thank you. Mark's going to try and rejoin us again. As always, there's a bit of a tech issue in regards to his connection. As soon as he joins back, we can add him back in. No problem at all with that. But finding your light, I think it's really important to find out what you do and how you do it so well and how you want to sort of really focus and go forward at that, really importantly. And thinking out the outside perspective, I think it's always great to listen to feedback from individuals, especially when it comes to your business. Always listening to the other person, listen to that feedback and how you can actively get involved in that and really focus on it. I think sometimes in business we forget about actually listening to other people's advice or feedback or recommendations and think, no, we know better. We don't need to change it. But sometimes when you listen to it, it might actually come into play quite nicely. And one of the big things I've noticed, if you think you want to do something, go for it. Thinking with this trusting your gut opportunity. I think it's really important that we do that as well. Really important that we look at that as we go forward. And I'm just going to let Mark back in as I filled a bit of time there, Mark. So I filled a bit of time there. So that was okay.
I know. And I was saying it was life-changing stuff that I can't remember any of it, but yeah, it would have absolutely solved the world's problems. It would have brought peace and unity across the universe. But yeah, we'll never know.
These things are here to try us, my friend, I tell you.
We will never know. So yeah, I've hit the laptop with a sledgehammer. We're back in the room.
So if
Let's
you
get
watch
out
back
before
this, you'll see me
before it
me
goes tits up
filling
again.
in, me filling in there on that one.
You
So
were doing your stand-up routine. You were loving
no,
it.
no,
Come
no.
on.
That's for later show. That one, my friend. That's for later show on that one. Kind of do that during the daytime. It's a bit on PC, so we'll have to keep that one close to the chest. We talk about personal development. We've gone on from that. I've just shared into the chat there as well, Mark. It's just looking at book recommendations, Jimmy Carr, comic books, creative thinking, outside the box, etc. as well. What's next for you? You know, if you could fast forward with the flux capacitor and fire through for like 6 months in advance of your future, what does 6 months time look like for you? What's next around the corner?
Yeah, it's just keep it adapt, keep Flux going, keep it probably more into the more consultancy realm, the more workshop space as well. I enjoy that aspect of it, and I was there. My first taste of Revitalise was being invited on to be a guest speaker. So that sort of thing where I can basically listen to the sound of my own voice, which is always good. Maybe another podcast guest, but I don't know. After today's shambles with technology, nobody will touch me with a barge pole. But yeah, just doing more of that, kind of getting out there and helping as many business owners as I can and connecting with as many like-minded people. I'm definitely on a mission of like-mindedness at the moment, and the one-to-ones and the people I connect with on LinkedIn and I spend time with is trying to learn from them. I've told them I'm like the littlest hobo, but I don't really help anybody. I just mooch off them and then move on to the next one. So yeah, that I see more of that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Well, we look forward to helping you even further go over the next 6 months and organising those conversations. But quick question I always wrap things up with these calls is we talk about business introductions. We talk about opportunities given to us, doors of opportunity, just what door can open up for us next. That was me knocking on the door, by the way. I know, not for yourself, it might not be even for me. Who is a good business introduction for you? If people are watching and listening to you today and they're rewatching this back or listening to it in the car, who's a great business introduction for Mark Thouless?
Somebody with lots of money.
Good answer. Yeah, good answer.
And then just want to get no. What it's business owners. I only work with business owners like myself because I can relate to them. And when it comes to building a brand, it's about relatability. You only work with certain type of people. Not everybody's your customer, and they're not supposed to be. But it's those business owners that understand the value in brand. They understand that they've got a dream that they want to build something amazing, but they're overwhelmed and frustrated with the day-to-day. They can't seem to get out of the bit. They just can't seem to get things going. And what it's helping is tarnishing the thing that they love doing, and maybe they've fallen out of love with it. What I'm there to do is motivation, inspiration, fire up that passion again, make them either stay in love or fall back in love with what they do, and be there as a champion, as a cheerleader, as a custodian, and help them even when the overwhelm comes back. It's like any good supervillain, the overwhelm always comes back. Yeah. But just to make sure that with passion, motivation, inspiration, you can defeat it again, and make sure that they will build the brand of their dreams or go beyond that. That's kind of what I'm here. So the overwhelmed and the frustrated out there, and yes, loads and loads of money that they want to give me would be lovely. Thank you.
So I
need to keep myself in all this stuff.
I've just dropped that in the chat for us as well, and I've put in there business intro from August. Business owners wanting to build their brand, focus on how they want to build their brand, and value passion for what they enjoy doing. And the question is, are you overwhelmed? Are you overwhelmed? So if you're overwhelmed, speak to Mark. I think that's really important. I think a lot of people, Mark, actually forget about asking who they want to speak to.
Yeah.
And some people, and all due respect, people may be watching this today on YouTube and LinkedIn, is that they may not even know who they want to speak to. They never really asked the question. This is who my target audience is, and this is who I'd like to speak to. Really important on that one.
That's it. And a lot of businesses, just going on a slight tangent, a lot of businesses don't realise that or what to ask for because they don't see that as a solution. Correct. Certainly brands, one of them, where they don't think there's something wrong with my business, I'll go and buy five quid's worth of brand. They think that's the solution. So I heard another great podcast that I listen to, and I'm sorry to break it to you like this, Lee, but I do listen to other I know. It was a horrible way of letting you know, but I do see other podcasts. And they said it speak about the symptoms. That's what, that relatability is. And again, touching back on one of the top tips is how people are feeling, because they might not understand that what you actually sell is a solution. So don't just assume that they do. So yeah, so sometimes that's difficult so always speak about how they're feeling, what problems do you solve. And it might not be negative. That's another thing as well. A lot of business owners I deal with, especially in the food and drink or the product industry, their stuff, the trigger is not really a negative. So sometimes it can be tricky for them as well. So outside perspective, again, ask someone else.
It's always useful.
That's why networking is a vital part of being a business owner. You have to. That's not a nice to have. It's a must have. And that's what one of the most valuable things is: sounding boards, market research, focus groups, outside perspectives. The flash of the business that you do, the 20 seconds, the 30 seconds. Use that. Road test it. See what lands, see what doesn't. You'll get told straight away. If it's blank faces, which usually that happens when I do mine, then try again next week, which I inevitably do. And my main goal is just to make you crack up, but
But here's a good point to mention on there, just to wrap it up with before we close this down. Actually, I would encourage every single one of you who's watching and listening today is ask your closest connections, the groups or organizations that you're part of right now. Pick out a selection of people and ask them, what does your brand say to them? What does your brand stand for in their eyes? And listen to that response. It's great to get that soundboard, that peer-to-peer. Listen to what they say to you, because it might not be on point. They may not even understand what your brand is. They may not understand or know what you're about. I think it's so important that Mark's mentioned on that one, just to really wrap this call up. If you do get the chance, everybody, I would highly recommend, if you haven't done so already, is to reach out to Mark Thouless, find him on LinkedIn, connect with him through his website, and open up that one-to-one conversation. If you are feeling overwhelmed or just need that guidance, that support, that direction to really get your business on point, really expand the brand even further for you. Mark, thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you. Sorry that the gremlins got in. That's what I get for feeding them after midnight. So it's my own fault, really. But we got there in the end.
We did indeed.
We made it through to the other side. So
we did indeed.
And we stayed on topic, which
we did. And people could hear us still all the way through it, so that's fine. We've got some good responses in the chat area. So people are actually on LinkedIn and also on YouTube with us as well. Massive thank you, not just from Mark, but also from me to all of you who've joined us and listened in or watched us today on the YouTube, or just listened to us chatting away just on the audio side of things. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, we've got many, many more Revitalise meets coming up over the next few months and next few weeks. Next week, I've got the great pleasure to be welcoming along Bake Box Queen herself from Luxury Bake Box Gifting. And that is Jennifer Walker, with an extraordinary story of where she came from with her business and where she is right now, helping everybody with sweet treats in people's post box, etc. as well. So if you do get the chance, don't forget to register or subscribe to the YouTube channel on Revitalise Network and on YouTube, and stay up to date with over 140 interviews standing it right now. And there's many more interviews coming up, some special editions, etc. as well. And you can always follow us on LinkedIn, on Revitalise Network, and on the LinkedIn page as well. Massive thanks to everybody for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you all again very, very shortly. And for Mark and for me, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. And remember, as always, everybody, keep connecting and happy connecting. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.